Good evening, everybody. I'm Ellis Cannon. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. We've got an interesting show planned for you. As we're well aware, COVID changed everything, or seemingly so. We'll see what the new normal is, so to speak. We'll see what goes back to the way things were and a whole lot in the middle. Tonight we're going to be talking for the first time on the broadcast that we've done here for many years with Sharon Lamm-Hartman. She is a doctor of education, and we're excited to speak to her about how all of that has changed in maybe a business, an entrepreneurial, employment setting, and more. It's really basically a way of evaluating how to be successful in this post-pandemic or increasingly post-pandemic environment, and also how it's changed the economy and how it's changed business, how it's done and how you can adapt with it. Of course, to do a sound check and more when we get a guest joining us by Zoom or Skype, what have you, or even phone. And that was no exception just moments ago when I said hello to Dr. Sharon Lamm-Hartman. She is the founder and CEO of Inside Out Learning Incorporated. It's an award-winning global leadership team and organization development consulting business. To say that she has accomplished a lot in that capacity is a gross understatement, and we want to use the time on picking her brain. But let me just say that her curriculum vitae, as we say in the law, or her resume is tremendous. Doctor, may I call you Dr. Sharon because I see that in your materials, or should I call you Dr. Lamm-Hartman? What do you prefer?
Call me Dr. Sharon.
Okay. Well, Dr. Sharon, you heard perhaps my open where I talked about how things have changed. Some things will revert. You know, again, 30,000 feet, we've gone through an enormous impact in a variety of ways. But from a business perspective, how do you analyze what we've seen in the last 18 months?
Well, from a business perspective, I mean, so many businesses have been hit. Small businesses, mid-size, even our large Fortune 500 corporations. And everything from many have gone out of business to needing to survive in the business, to needing to learn how to pivot to work virtually and having all their workforce at home. And how do you do that except for mission critical or, you know, and all the restaurant workers out there. So this has just been like unprecedented in terms of our times, Ellis. So I just feel that the businesses that have survived have done it often with help. I mean, if you think about the PPP loans that came out and also even learning new technology. I mean, our business was, before COVID, was 80% in person. So we had to pivot and now do 100% virtual, and we're just getting back into many of our clients wanting in person.
And that's a really good jumping off point, because I don't think there's any question that looking forward, at least for the short to intermediate future, if not longer, I think the landscape has changed in how we do business.
It absolutely has, and I think that companies are seeing that now. When now many people are getting vaccinated, they're asking their employees to come back. And several of our clients that are Fortune 500 businesses are having trouble getting their employees back to the workplace. They have enjoyed this hybrid environment or just working from home. And then yet some people are like eager to go back, right? And so there's this dichotomy that I'm seeing out there.
For sure. I mean, let's be honest, we would have never met if it wasn't for the technology that's developed in this time. And not to say that it's a silver lining by any stretch, but on the other hand, I think there was a lot of technology, there was a lot of innovation that not just surfaced during this period of time, but frankly was in the pipeline, because it didn't just turn on. I mean, this stuff was in the pipeline, and when that moment came for it to be useful, it blew up and changed everything.
It really did. It absolutely did. I mean, look at Zoom, right? And Zoom and WebEx and Teams and all of these technologies that allow us to do these interviews. I would have probably, before COVID, needed to come to you in person.
I was ready to say the same thing. We'd have to be on set here. And I welcome the idea of having these. It's broadened the show. It's broadened the conversation, the topics, and more. And, you know, frankly, I've spoken to people They could be with nonprofits, they could be in the arts, they could be any number of places. We've talked to folks over the last 18 months, and they're drawing in people that they otherwise would never be able to do. Now, again, we all know the cost of this, and I'm not trying to minimize it, but if you're in a survival mode, and if you don't want to go away, it's either adapt or go away.
That's right. That's right. You have to adapt. You have to adapt or you don't survive.
Right. One thing that, I note in your background is, how important you really believe that your advice is, and it would seemingly be borne out by everything I had said at the outset in terms of your success. I mean, you've coached thousands of CEOs, executives, educators. You've got an upcoming book and so much more. But, the idea of practical advice, yes, I think is much more meatier than ever. And if for no other reason, risk in some ways is greater than ever. How has perhaps the way I just characterize things impacted you and the need and interest in what you provide? Because people really don't want to make a mistake at this point in business or in the employment field, or even if they have their own company.
That's right. We have it's a free program that we put out on YouTube, and it's called the Recovery Remedy. And you can look that up online. We shared 3 key tools that any business can implement to help them recover from this time. And one is even knowing where your business is, in terms of the stages of change that's out there, and then how to move that business through those stages of change. You also need to really set SMART goals, those smarter, measurable, realistic goals, and make sure all your employees know about it. And you need to align your employees with those goals. And then we also talk about operating norms. Like, how are we going to operate now? Are some going to be at home and some be back in the office? I mean, a lot of our clients are not renewing their leases for commercial real estate. They are seeing that they can do from home or virtually, so they're not having as much office space. So how are you going to operate then? What's going to be the expectations? So those are 3 tools that you can use and implement, and I highly recommend you go check out that Recovery Remedy that's online. We did it for the Better Business Bureau to help businesses through these times.
That's outstanding, and we'll certainly look that up as well. One other thing is about recouping revenue that you lost.
Yes.
It could be income for an individual, it could be revenue depending on the type of organization or corporation, but that obviously is something a lot of people, I'm sure, are interested in.
Oh, absolutely. So you have to know how. So the title of my book, Ellis, is The Authenticity Code, the art and science of success and why you can't fake it to make it. And that is really a key, that you need to know how to present your business in a way that is going to really help your clients and customers realize that you have a product or a service that is marketable in this post-COVID economy. And they may have in their mind that you are one way. You need to let them know that you are different. So you need to know how to present your business. And that's what the Authenticity Code is all about. It's about how to present yourself, how to present your business. It's critical. One of our clients is a major government agency, and they thought we were going to put a pause on our contract to develop leadership team offsites during this time. And I said, wait a minute. I said, we can do this virtually. Let me show you a demo that allows you to see how we can do it virtually. We showed them that, and they said, we need this. We need this now more than ever. We didn't even know this was possible virtually, but we had to show them that it existed. And I think it's so critical that every business owner or employee, you need to know how to present what you're offering now in the post-COVID economy.
Doctor, you just said need 3 times. And to me, that's a very interesting take. There's a big distinction between want and need.
Yes.
And I suspect, again, looking back at it and still having some element of it surrounding us, that, yeah, we always want so to speak, the best we can get and all that we can get. But boy, this really forces you to put your nose to the grindstone and figure out what you need as an individual, as an organization, as a company, in order to adapt and to be successful. It really jumped out at me because I think that, that is a big difference. And again, it places a greater significance on adapting and understanding authenticity and the new tools that you need.
Absolutely. It is need because our competitors totally expanded overnight. I mean, people that might have been in Europe couldn't have competed with us in the past, right? But now they can. And so it's something that you really do. It is a need, Ellis. So great listening. It's definitely a need. This is not a want. You have a choice whether you want to survive or thrive in this post-COVID economy. And I want as many businesses, employees, team members to thrive, not just survive. There are so many new opportunities out there. I mean, we have apps available now. I would have never thought of doing an educational app for the authenticity code, and we now have that available as well.
You raise another interesting point. This is fun. This is flowing exactly like I told you in our meetup before the show. I was hopeful it would. Yes, there are a lot of tools. From a consumer perspective, I could see where at times it appears almost to be overwhelming to have so many options. Is that something that, from your perspective, from a consulting perspective, either to companies or individuals, that you find to be an issue?
Yes. People are overwhelmed with choice because there are so many options. So again, it comes back to how do you present your option and how do you make it so compelling, right? You have to know the benefits of your option. Like, I know the authenticity code will help people land jobs. It will help people get promoted. It will help you increase your sales and your revenue. You have got to say what your product will do. And you have to differentiate it from all the other options out there. You need to say right up front, this is the purpose of why I'm talking to you. This is the value proposition of what I have to offer. And this is what I want at the end of this conversation. And then that helps people to filter how to listen to you and just to help them through all of these options. I mean, you go out on apps and you see how many apps are out there these days, millions and millions, if not billions.
Yeah, as I said, it could be a little bit oppressive if you're not focused on what, dare I say, you need, and to work it through and what might be a little bit more of a challenge, and that is to step outside yourself, so to speak, and be able to make those paths clear. We're going to come right back with Dr. Sharon. You can find her and her website information on her book at InsideOutLearning.com. We're going to be back, and I want to get back to this authenticity thing. I find it to be something that might cut both ways. I'll explain with the doctor momentarily. Very much enjoying the conversation as I was hopeful, and I also am hopeful that you are as well, learning so much from Dr. Sharon. That would be Sharon Lamm-Hartman. She is a doctor in education, and she has been very successful in 2 decades, actually more than that, coaching thousands of CEOs, executives, educators, professionals, entrepreneurs, very important, obviously, as well. And her book will be coming out in the fall of this year, The Authenticity Code, The Art and Science of Success and Why You Can't Fake It to Make It, which, by the way, is a phrase my mom used to use many times to get through some struggles. But InsideOutLearning.com is where you could learn so much more. And the resource you mentioned on YouTube is worth it as well, clearly. So when I hear authenticity,
yes,
I could certainly understand its benefit. There's no question. But I must say that I'm not so sure, forgive me if this sounds terribly self-serving, that either there should be an alternative or that there is an alternative. I mean, I'm not, obviously somebody just fell off the truck, but the reality is that if you manipulate if you're not natural, if you're not authentic, with all of the, warts that come with it at times, I think you get exposed. I know in this business, I know when I was a trial lawyer, I guarantee you if I got in front of a jury and I was working people, it was a bad day. And they knew it. People are smart. If in business you come across that way, people see it. It doesn't take long. And certainly, I can tell you in 25 years of doing this, that if you're not natural, they know it. So, having said that, authenticity seems to be not only the only way to go, but the most valuable way to go, right?
Absolutely, 100%. And what I love, I'm kind of challenging a traditional paradigm of authenticity. And it's not only about, I'm going to be who I want to be when I want to be it. It is, the code is your presence plus your audience plus your presentation equals your success. And I define authenticity as your most powerful way of adding value by expressing your unique gifts and talents for your chosen audience. So you have to, it's an authentic choice, Ellis, who we choose to be in front of. It was an authentic choice for me to be on your show today. And that's just something we need to choose our audience. And once we do, we need to consider them. And I think this is where the intersection happens between authenticity and servant leadership.
We're going to get to service leadership in a moment, but you just hit it on the head. You not only need to know, but you need to know who is your audience.
Yes.
That is really basic stuff. I mean, you could be the smartest person in the world, but if you're talking X and your audience is, at B, it's just not going to connect. And same thing in a boardroom or when you go to the bank. And you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get some things rolling. Could you please tell me those three things again? Presence?
Yes.
Go ahead. That was awesome.
Your presence. So that is totally who you are authentically, your presence. Plus your audience, plus your presentation equals your success. And that is what so much of the authenticity literature up until this point, until my book, has left out, because I feel we really need to know our audience and consider that and to say, how do I best speak to this audience? Because I authentically chose to be in front of this audience. That's an authentic choice as well.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. I really enjoyed that. Talk about the leadership advice you were just mentioning.
Yeah, the servant leadership, right? Because there's a whole philosophy and school of thought about servant leadership and how to be of service to those that you serve. And so I feel that with authenticity, sometimes people have thought, oh, it just means, hey, I need to be who I am, regardless of my audience. No, it is in service to my audience. So that is the key. It's authenticity. It's being you in service to your audience, because every day, right? You're on this show and you're being of service to your listeners, and that's why you have a great following.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I would also venture to say that audience is not only external, but also internal. Matter of fact, I'd say that there's a premium on it internally in light of the changes that we've talked about throughout the course of the conversation, meaning to employees or to people that are under that umbrella that you're leading.
Absolutely. It is not only your customers and your clients. And I will tell you, your employees need a lot right now. Your employees, a lot of times in that recovery remedy that I shared, that's a free resource out on the YouTube. You go there, you need to see where your employees are in the change cycle. Are they in denial? Are they in acceptance? Are they in frustration or maybe even depression? And how do you support them through that? Because people are going through a lot. I have a 15-year-old son. I was fortunate because he was old enough to take care of himself, during this time, but it still was a challenge. And I was so compassionate to all of the parents who had young children, 3 and 4 and babies, right? And they had to find a way of working and caring for their children at the same time. This puts stress on people, and your employees need you right now.
Oh.
You need to help them and support them and nurture them, and just really let them know you care.
Yeah, hallelujah. I mean, really, I'm glad we step out of the business context for a moment and talk about the domestic one, because I mean, basically having 3 at one time, I could tell you that if there was a pandemic going on at the same time, I just don't know how. I just don't know how. And believe me, I'm just a guy just trying to help out in that situation, as opposed to being a real leader. So yeah, the stressors have to be fantastic, as in tremendous. One last thing. We've spent some nights on the shows talking about women's roles in a variety of ways. Really loved one about 2 months ago where we went across the landscape, Doctor, of the financial world, whether it be Janet Yellen here, whether or not be those in the EU, a variety of world financial organizations. And women are literally at the top of many of those, if not most of them. I find it very refreshing in a lot of ways. When you have women's roles in leadership as something that you discuss, where does that focus?
You know, I just love seeing women thrive through this. And I guess maybe it's our training too, that when we are able, right, to bear children, and something happens in our brain and we're able to multitask and do a bunch of things, it makes us very adaptive. So number one, I think we are thriving because we're adaptive, we can multitask, we can handle a number of things at the same time. And I will tell you, I worked at the Center for Creative Leadership, and we did research there. And it showed that women develop more from supportive relationships. So it is critical that women out there, the women leaders, make sure they have supportive relationships in their life, whether that be mentors, coaches, peers. I'm in WPO. I am in a WeBank certified. These are my peers, and we uplift each other. And I could not have gotten through this time of COVID without my peer groups, and being able to share and mastermind with them and say, how are we going to get through this? And we collaborate. And I think that that's a big difference in women leadership styles. We collaborate with our peers and we help one another.
That's well put. And what I also find interesting is that, you know, a lot of times when we think about those groups, we think in terms of networking, and that's certainly a component. But there's also times and moments where it's about huddling up, circle the wagon, in a supportive way. I'm very happy to hear that you're able to use that to your benefit and to the benefit of others. Let me ask you one sort of inarticulate question. How do you do all this? It strikes me that to write a book, which I've been suggested to do on a number of occasions, is probably the most difficult thing in the world, let alone on top of everything else, and you're doing a million more things. You've got 45 seconds. How do you manage this?
You know what? I practice what I preach. I follow the authenticity code. I got in touch with my authentic brand and what I'm here to do and who I'm here to be. And when you're connected to that and to be of service and to live your destiny, it becomes easy and you can juggle things.
Yeah, it becomes, it
becomes more graceful, you know, and with more ease. And it's because I'm doing what I came here to do.
That's good. Well, I'm glad you came out to do it. And I'm glad that you did it here, InsideOutLearning.com. Again, we otherwise wouldn't have met. I really hope that we have the opportunity to do it again, Doctor. This was thoroughly enjoyable.
I would love that, Ellis. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I hope it helped some people.
Well, I'm sure it did. It was, you're fascinating. Again, the book, The Authenticity Code, The Art and Science of Success, and Why You Can't Fake It Till You Make It. Make sure you get it. All right, we'll be right back. Thank you, Doctor.